Next up will be our Archeogaming education modules team, led by Paige Brevick. Paige has been leading this team for a couple of years now, and they have just made the most amazing products. We have, free online educational resources, and we're very devoted to them. If you were here earlier for Epaminondas' paper, he's also part of this team. So with great pleasure, introduce to you Paige Brevick.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. I caught the end there of that last talk, looked really exciting and very cool about the shoes. That's something I think that you don't always see that unless you're walking through a museum. But I will say that we do make comments about shoes in one of our Archeo Gaming modules. So I know there's been a couple talks already so far yesterday on Archeo Gaming. And some of that has been very exploratory, talking about the live games and how we interact with the games kind of in that present moment. And so I'm going to share a little bit on the other side of it, which is more on the education side. So I'm really happy just to give a brief update today on what the program is for anybody who's new to SASA or just tuning in, and then kind of where we see ourselves going the next year or so. And I can share a little bit about our latest module. So, Archeogaming, ancient studies in the K through 12 classrooms. So, something that was identified pretty early on by SASA was this need to really improve how ancient studies are incorporated and really explored in elementary and middle school classrooms. But I think we would probably also argue even beyond that into high school and even undergraduate classroom settings. So, of course, there's been a lot of use of new tools, technology, and that kind of hands on engagement in STEM area programs and courses that hasn't always been picked up in the humanities. And so, something at SASA, we challenged ourselves to kind of ask, how can we address this? And how do we really make that ancient world come to life, make it accessible? And also, how can we make that easier for educators to do, to bring that ancient world to life, to make it more empathetic and also relevant? So, one way that we have addressed this has been through the use of using materials and formats that students are actually already familiar with, and that would be video games. So, video games are still kind of a new concept. They're definitely not used all the time in the classroom, but we really want to change that. Times are changing, and I think students and educators are trying to find new ways to make learning really fun. So, what is archeogaming then? So, this is really SASA's approach to this problem. The term itself is really still being defined. As we've seen even through other presentations, there are different ways to approach what archeogaming really is, and also I think what it really means for education and where that intersection is between gaming and gameplay, and then discovery, learning, and education. And I think that's actually what makes it very fun and very cool to be exploring archeogaming at SASA. So we take really an engaged learning approach. And this actually here is actually a screenshot from one of our modules. This is our urbanization module. And what we do is we have a team of archaeologists and writers, creative writers, and also student interns and volunteers who work together, and they've actually illustrated this character here who comes alive, Seshet, during our talk, and she narrates a script that we've written that walks you through these educational programs and topics that would be relevant to a middle school classroom. So the program overall is really designed essentially to be a really valuable resource-rich classroom program for teachers. So it's supposed to be flexible, it's asynchronous, so teachers here have full and free access to all the teaching resources. They're able to use the videos as well as all of the supporting materials as well, and I'll go through in a minute what those supporting materials are. And then all of these supportive materials are actually designed with modification in mind. So if you're an educator watching this talk, you're able to go through our curriculum that we give you and modify it and design it for your own classroom needs. So that's to meet you where your class is at, and also what your students are interested in and what they find the most exciting. The Archeogaming education module program actually does not require any video game knowledge or use. So I'm not necessarily a gamer myself, although I'm getting pulled into the exciting world of video games through my role in Archeogaming on the education side of things. but they actually don't require that you use a video game necessarily. In some of our future modules, we're hoping to have our own kind of video tours and walkthroughs where you would use that element of a game. But I don't want anyone to be intimidated. You don't need to own a gaming console to use the AEM program. Right now, our video games are also using video game footage that I think is probably pretty accessible and familiar to students. So we're mostly using Assassin's Creed, but we have other games as well that are that historical kind of graphic animation style. Our students here are doing a variety of activities, so that's crosswords, quizzes, even a board game, and then we also always try to include a creative arts project as well. And each AEM actually comes with a customized 15 to 20 page teacher's pack. So I would describe this kind of as like a specialized encyclopedia entry that's written by experts, but it's specifically matched to our curriculum and our AEM video module. And then just this last note here, our video modules and the curriculum that goes with them are actually created with state and federal learning standards in mind. And in the future, we're hoping to actually have kind of a guide booklet that matches each one of those state goals and benchmarks to align. So you can use that if you're sharing the curriculum with your administrators or going over kind of a class planning session. So what is actually in an Archeogaming education module? So these materials include, of course, the Archeogaming video itself, and then a PowerPoint filled with screenshots from the AEM, so you're able to drag and drop, use these in classes or curriculum that you're going to then modify and include. And then the teacher's packet. The teacher's packet then again includes lesson outcomes and objectives, kind of a general module overview, which you can use to share the course with your own administrators or for evaluation purposes. Contextual information, the activity answers. I don't know if I would call them necessarily answers, but kind of an activity guideline so that you're able to continue to harbor that really engaging discussion with your students. We also provide a copy of the script. There's a bio of every Archeogaming scholar. So for every AEM that we create, we actually work with a specialized consultant or an expert in that field. And typically these people are very enthusiastic. They're happy to share contact information. Sometimes they might even answer questions with your classroom. It's similar to that Skype a Scientist program, and we're really happy to support that. And then each AEM also comes with kind of a further reading list. And typically we'll have readings that are more academic for educators. And then we'll have age appropriate books and websites and other programs that they might want to share with their students. The activities include kind of standard crosswords and word searches. We also have quizzes, both long form and multiple choice, and then discussion questions. And then we always include also creative and tactile activities so that there's different ways you can build your lesson program and kind of modify it for the needs of that particular class. So our module themes, these are two of our more recent themes here. Our UNC modules were actually on Viking diaspora, medieval medicine, and they explore big topics and themes that were really popular in middle school. So these are things that are explored typically in a social studies or a Western Civ class. And so I think it's important just to mention these as an example because we aren't just talking about the Vikings, right? We're also talking about ideas of migration and trade, seafaring, paganism, slavery in the early Viking diaspora, and then how diasporic communities are built and they spread. And then medieval medicine, we talk about this idea of exchanging ideas between the East and the West, also how that is represented cross-culturally and within the archaeology. Our kind of first community quarantines, magic and medicine and the church, and even the Black Plague in Europe, which is another benchmark that often comes up in the middle school setting. Just a little bit of a sneak peek on the inside of one of our slides here. So one thing that was mentioned when we were creating these discussion questions was to try to invite students to reflect on contemporary issues. So again, it's kind of bridging that ancient archaeological world up until the present, and how do we make those two things relatable? And so I think this is just a good example of a discussion question, which you can have with your students. And of course, you can see how this might be a great thing to put on a test for your students, or even just to discuss in a classroom setting, kind of free form. And I was just telling somebody else this in another lecture, but to always encourage your students and ask them the hard questions, because I think kids, especially middle schoolers, are really great at talking and engaging, and they always give you great answers. And I'm always surprised by my students. So continue to challenge your students in that way. And then I just wanted to share this briefly. Two of our latest modules that we are working on. We do have very generous funding from the NEH right now to work on two more modules for middle schoolers. The one we are wrapping up right now is actually an AEM on Egyptian religion. Of course, this is our current module, and we're really excited because I actually have a consultant Egyptologist who worked with us from the University of Chicago, sharing all of his ideas for how to talk about ancient Egyptian religion and bringing in video games. So our current AEM talks about Egyptian religion and mythology, but also the creation myths. Of course, ancient Egypt has many different perspectives on how the world began, and then also how religion influences daily life, how we see that represented in the archaeology and the art, and then some of the animal associations with the gods. So, of course, we might know when ancient Egypt, we might think about the rich animals and the animal deities, and so that's a very fun thing we've been able to tackle from a video game perspective. And our upcoming module will actually be on a medieval Japan. So we are working with the Ghost of Tsushima video game. We're going to talk about early samurai class and samurai culture at this time, agriculture in medieval Japan, rural temple practices and what that looked like in kind of the home setting, and then also women in medieval Japanese culture. So these are some big topics we're hoping to kind of bring to the classroom, hopefully coming up pretty soon here. And then overall, I just wanted to share some of our program goals here. We do want to continue to currently expand our AEM program to at least 16 modules, possibly beyond. And that's really to try to align ourselves with what that general middle school social studies world history curriculum currently is. We also want to keep expanding our AEM expert database, and this is just to continue to create really rich programs. So if you are really interested in video games and education, I would encourage you to reach out to SASA and perhaps join our expert database. And then I'm also happy to share that one of our goals for a long time has actually been to develop our current six, soon to be 8 modules into undergraduate level sessions for 75-minute classes. So we are very excited. That's something we'll be working on in the fall to kind of upgrade some of the program that we've already done and make it accessible for the undergraduate level sessions in a more expanded way. So I'm very excited that the next time I do this talk, I'll be able to share where we're at with that goal. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Of course, I really value the opportunity just to share a little bit of the work that the Archeogaming team is working on. Just a reminder that the Archeogaming modules are completely free to download. They're available on the saveancientstudies.org website. And I hope if you have any questions, you'll reach out to me, reach out to SASA, and you'll definitely sign up for our soon-to-be released modules. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paige. Always great to hear where things are.